everything's urgent. Everything's a problem because of we the people. On Earth 4, numeral 4, all website, let's have a look at that, because it has all the usual propaganda, all the gaslighting to keep us alarmed. It says 70% of greenhouse gas emissions from fossil fuels, CO2 emissions from energy and industry need to reach net zero by mid-century. It needs to. It goes on. 1.5 billion people depend on forests for their livelihoods. We all rely on forests and other natural systems to sustain human life. So that 1.5 billion, they won't be around, so don't worry. That's part of the culling. It goes on. 80% of plastic waste produced since 1950 is still in landfills or littering the environment. We are fast approaching our planet's limits. Well, it's the elite that produced plastic through Rockefeller's petroleum waste industry that he also uses for pharmaceuticals and the food production. The gaslighting continues, doesn't it? So on Earth for All website page, it states, this is talking about the Earth for All book. Remember the book launch? This is talking about this. The economic system keeps crashing. Oh, well, if they stopped rigging it, maybe it wouldn't. It's time to install a new operating system. There's operating systems again. Earth for All, that's the publication, is both an antidote to despair and a roadmap for a better future. Using powerful state-of-the-art computer modelling to explore policies likely to deliver the most good for the majority of people. A leading group of scientists and economists from around the world present 5 extraordinary turnarounds to achieve prosperity for all within planetary limits in a single generation. So here we go. Better future. Planetary limits. That's code for culling. Depopulation. It's for all, is for the elites. So let's have a look and see what these 5 extraordinary turnarounds are. The coverage includes results of new global modelling that indicates falling well-being and rising social tensions, heightened risk of regional societal collapse. It includes 2 alternative scenarios, too little, too late versus the giant leap, and what they mean for our collective future. That's nice communistic terminology, vocabulary there. It includes 5 system shifting steps that can upend poverty and inequality, lift up marginalized people, and transform our food and energy systems by 2050. Depopulation, that will sort that out very nicely. Then there'll be no problems on the tiny little bit of agriculture that's left that will mainly support the elites. We'll mainly be on the lab food, but we might on special occasions get some real food. And the last consideration, a clear pathway to reboot our global economic system so that it works for all people and the planet. The reboot is well-being economy. We've talked about that. The website goes on to say, written in an open, accessible and inspirational style using clear language and high impact visuals. Earth for All is a profound vision for uncertain times and a map to a better future. So it's a dumbed down read full of pictures for you dumbed down lower classes that we learnt from Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. So we don't understand we're being herded to the gulag. The last area is who's who in the zoo, because there are people endorsing this book that you're encouraged to go and buy. I'm not going to give it to you for free. Give you the jab for free, but they're not going to give you this for free. You've got to go and buy it because they don't want you to read it. This is what Bill McKibbins, author of The End of Nature, has to say. If we'd paid attention to the limits to growth in 1972, we wouldn't be in this fix today. As the modelling in this book makes clear, what's left of this decade may be our last and best hope to get it at least partly right. Oh, poor man, he's probably on sleeping tablets just to sleep at night. Here's the next person, Janez Toknik, former European Commissioner for Environment, 2009 to 2014, former Minister for European Affairs in Slovenia, co-chair International Resource Panel. 50 years after limits to growth, Earth for All says it is possible to build a prosperous future for all on our planet and show how. This book is an absolute must-read for policymakers and leaders, with the hope that this decade is decisive to understand that Earth should indeed be for all. My goodness, so there it is, the dumbed-down version for dumbed-down useful idiots in our government and in our councils to make their policies. Goodness, and we might just get it right. Here's another person. His name is Roman Kursnarik, and he's the author of The Good Ancestor, How to Think Long-Term in a Short-Term World. So he's another guy that's probably on sleeping tablets, because he's clearly very disturbed. And he says this: I've always kept the original Limits to Growth report within easy reach, bedside table. Now I'll be putting Earth for All beside it, an essential guidebook for everyone aspiring to be a good ancestor. There we go. We're thinking of those yet to come, like Agenda 2030 is, making sure we're leaving enough for future generations. We are full of resources on this earth. The problem is that the elites won't let us access it. That's why third worlds are in the state they're in. They're not allowed to access their resources. The first world got in before we were hammered, but the third world, they're not allowed to. Here's another quote. Ernest von Weizsäcker. He's the honorary president of the Club of Rome. Of course he is. Earth for All provides us with a vision of a future where humanity and nature in balance and well-being is at the core of our economic system. But it also provides us with the actions we need to take to get there. This book is a must-read for policymakers. So there we are, just making sure that you know it's well-being. Remember, we've got the well-being of a rock, and this really is for policymakers. Here's another quote from Tokyo, Japan. Naoko Ishii, Professor, Executive Vice President at University of Tokyo, former CEO of Global Environmental Facility. Earth for All sharply addresses the biggest challenge of our time: how to defeat inequality and poverty while saving our planet from climate change and environmental destruction. Its urgent call to transform our economies is my call to our leaders. A must-read for all of us. Thank you for that. Here's another one. Kate Raworth. She's the author. Donut Economics, because that's about what it is. It's a circus. It's a picnic. It's pathetic. What does Kate have to tell us? It's time to shift from the age of endless growth to an age of thriving in balance. This thought-provoking analysis proposes 5 critical turnarounds for getting us there. Each of them raises urgent issues for public discussion and action. Read on to explore possible futures for humanity and join the most vital debate of our times. So totally drenched in the narrative, poor girl. Let's hear from Richard Heinberg. He's a senior fellow, Post-Carbon Institute author, Power, Limits and Prospects for Human Survival. This latest, most urgent, most carefully researched version of Systems Science Scenario for Our Human Future is essential reading for collapse preventors everywhere. Whether its recommendations are taken up by policymakers everywhere, and whether we humans are therefore able to avert worldwide ecological, economic and social breakdown sometime during the remainder of the 21st century is up to all of us. There's a worried man. There's a real worried man. You know, fear really splits the psyche. Fear doesn't make for rational ideas, rational reasoning and conclusions. And this is these useful idiots, the elites call them. They're all fear-based. So ideal for the elites. Absolutely ideal. Let's hear from Emmanuel Faber. He's a member of Earth for All, 21st Century Transformation Economics Commission. Earth for All is a playbook to catch up after 50 years of systematic inaction on mitigating the risks which were factored in the limits to growth in 1972. We don't have 50 years this time. We have at best 10 years to urgently engage in the 5 critical turnarounds. There is no way for you and me to become the system change leaders that the world needs without starting from those 5 4-hour roadmap. Put them on your immediate to-do list. So it sounds like he's listening to our little girl Greta, listening to Gore. Okay, I've just got one endorsement. It's worth just reading this one more. It's a beauty. Now, it's a very long one, and I've got to say I've cut it shorter than it should be, but you'll get the idea how it goes. And this is by Teresa Ribera. I find Ribera really interesting because the Jesuit that swapped out historicists' worldview of Bible prophecy for futurists' worldview of Bible prophecy that 80, 90, 99% of Christians around the world not only believe but just love. Jesuit Ribera, he created that little scenario. Teresa, Deputy Prime Minister for Ecological Transition, Government of Spain. And she says, stubborn optimism versus immobilizing pessimism, long-term vision versus short-term reaction, collective intelligence versus individualism, human well-being versus compulsive consumption, valuing our future versus discounting it, livable planet versus an unstable planet. The choices we must make for our prosperous common future are crystal clear. So is the urgency to act and to redress the imbalances of a broken socio-economic model. And here is where Earth for All comes in, to rescue an honest contribution for positive change from some of the most renowned thinkers, scientists and economists of our time. A recalibrated set of lenses to explore the challenges of our generation, global equity and a healthy planet, a map to explore, dive deep and inspire, a must-read for any policymaker who values our future, as well as for corporate leaders, responsible investors and the general public worldwide. Earth for All is a call for action, a movement to infuse social and political change for the common good. Earth for All is inspired by the legacy of the limits to growth, but it goes well beyond that. It provides a guide, a leapfrog into the future most of us have longed for. This is the tale of our time, a story not to be missed. You would have heard her talk about common future. That comes from Grow, her report, and it was called Our Common Future. And that's, I do believe, one of the first documents that the word sustainability was in print. And obviously these same people are reading the same documents, keeping themselves tightly in that loop, tightly in their echo chamber, and just fully believing everything that they are endorsing. It's a book driven by fear, written by people driven by fear, endorsed by people riddled with fear, and it is up to us to push back on that fear and stand firm. What can we do? We can firstly ignore the useful idiots, and in New Zealand we can change jurisdiction to He Wakaputanga jurisdiction, get into our communities, fly our He Wakaputanga flag that heralds jurisdiction, connect with other people in that jurisdiction. This is very vital information to help join those dots. And the dots do need to be joined so we understand what our governments are doing, what it means when they stand up on platforms. It is time we take action ourselves outside of the corporation jurisdiction. So thank you very much for joining me today. Bless you.